The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Griffith Park as Tae-min Jung walked beside his fiancée, Hana Kim, her delicate hand resting on his arm, like a chain he couldn't break. The engagement ring on her finger caught the light, a flawless 3-carat diamond that represented everything his family wanted: alliance, power, tradition, everything except love. The wedding venue coordinator wants to meet next week. Hana's voice drifted through his thoughts, sweet and dutiful. She has some concerns about the guest list size. Tae-min nodded absently, his dark eyes scanning the park with the automatic vigilance of a man who'd made too many enemies. Children's laughter echoed from the playground, families spread across picnic blankets, couples walking hand in hand, normal people living normal lives, something he'd never known. Then he saw her. Time stopped. His heart slammed against his ribs so hard he wondered if Hana could hear it. There, pushing a triple stroller along the path ahead, was the woman who'd haunted his dreams for 4 years, Raven Cooper. Her dark skin glowed in the sunlight, natural hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing simple jeans and a food truck t-shirt that hugged curves he remembered tracing with reverent hands. But it was the children that made his world tilt off its axis. 3 toddlers, maybe 3 years old, with unmistakable mixed features, Korean eyes in faces that bore Raven's beautiful bone structure. The little girl looked up at something in a tree, and Tae-min's breath caught. Those were his eyes looking back at him. Raven's gaze found his across the distance, and the color drained from her face. For a heartbeat, they stared at each other across 4 years of silence and pain. Then she grabbed the stroller handle and ran. Tae-min stood frozen as Raven disappeared around a bend in the path, his mind reeling. 3 children. 3 children who looked exactly like what his and Raven's babies would look like. The math was simple and devastating. Tae-min? Hana's voice seemed to come from underwater. You look like you've seen a ghost. He had. The ghost of the only woman he'd ever loved, carrying the children he never knew existed. I need to go, he said, already pulling out his phone. Go, but we haven't finished discussing the... Kyung-soo will drive you home. His fingers flew over the screen, texting his right-hand man. Something urgent came up. Hana's perfectly painted lips pressed into a thin line. More urgent than our wedding planning? Yes, he thought. Much more urgent than a marriage that's nothing but a business transaction. I'll make it up to you, he said, the lie tasting bitter on his tongue. 20 minutes later, Kyung-soo Choi appeared at the park entrance, his expression carefully neutral as always. The man had been Tae-min's shadow for 8 years, loyal to a fault and deadly when necessary. Boss? Find Raven Cooper. Last known address, current employment, everything, and do it quietly. Kyung-soo's eyebrows rose slightly, the most emotion he ever showed. The chef from 4 years ago. Yes. Tae-min's jaw clenched. And Kyung-soo? She has 3 children. I need to know everything about them too. Within 2 hours, Kyung-soo had answers. They sat in Tae-min's Bentley outside a food truck called Seoul Kitchen Fusion in a strip mall parking lot in Koreatown. The irony wasn't lost on him. She was still cooking the Korean-African fusion dishes that had brought them together. She owns the truck, Kyung-soo reported, reading from his tablet. Started it 3 years ago. Lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in mid-city with the children, Zion, Layla, and Liam Cooper. No father listed on any birth certificates. Tae-min's hands fisted on his knees. Ages. 3 years, 2 months. The timeline fit perfectly. Raven would have discovered her pregnancy right after he'd destroyed their relationship with words designed to cut deep enough to make her never come back. Words that had saved her life, but cost him everything. Financial situation? Kyung-soo's expression darkened. Not good. Behind on rent. Truck needs major repairs. And there's a social services case file. Someone reported concerns about the children's living conditions. White-hot rage flooded Tae-min's system. Who? Anonymous tip. Probably a neighbor. The investigator is scheduled to visit tomorrow. Tae-min stared at the food truck where Raven was working alone, her movements efficient and graceful as she prepared orders. Even from a distance, he could see the exhaustion in her shoulders, the way she paused to rub her lower back. She was struggling, and it was his fault. Boss, Kyung-soo's voice was carefully neutral. What are your orders? Tae-min was quiet for a long moment, watching the woman who'd owned his heart since the moment she'd looked up from plating his bulgogi and asked if he wanted extra kimchi with a smile that could have powered the city. I'm going to fix this, he said finally. And Miss Kim? The wedding? Tae-min thought of Hana, sweet and dutiful, and completely wrong for him, thought of his family's expectations. the alliance the marriage would cement, the power it would consolidate. Then he thought of 3 children who carried his blood, growing up without knowing their father because he'd been too much of a coward to fight for the woman he loved. The wedding can wait. The food truck was closing when Taemin approached. Raven was cleaning the grill, her back to the service window, humming something under her breath. The sound hit him like a physical blow. She used to hum while cooking for him, lost in her own world of flavors and creativity. "We need to talk." She spun around, a spatula clutched in her hand like a weapon. Up close, he could see the changes 4 years had wrought. She was thinner, fine lines around her eyes speaking of sleepless nights and worry, but she was still the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. "No, we don't." Her voice was ice cold, but he caught the tremor underneath. "You made yourself very clear 4 years ago. Raven, it's Ms. Cooper to you." She turned back to the grill, scrubbing with unnecessary force. "And if you're here for food, we're closed. I saw them today in the park." Her hands stilled. "I don't know what you're talking about. Zion, Layla, and Liam." Each name was a knife to his chest. "My children." The spatula clattered to the floor. Raven's shoulders shook, and for a moment he thought she might collapse. Then she straightened, turning to face him with eyes blazing with 4 years of suppressed fury. "Your children." Her laugh was bitter. "You don't get to call them that. You don't get to show up here and claim them after what you did to me. I know you hate me." "Hate you?" She stepped closer, and he caught her scent. Vanilla and spice and something uniquely Raven that made his chest ache. "Hate doesn't even begin to cover what I feel for you, Taemin Jung. You destroyed me. You looked me in the eye and told me I was nothing. A distraction, a mistake you regretted." Each word was a lash across his soul. He'd said those things to save her life, but she didn't know that. Couldn't know that. "If I could take it back." "But you can't." Tears glittered in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. "So you don't get to waltz back into my life and pretend you care. My children don't need a father who's ashamed of them." "I'm not ashamed." "Then where have you been?" The question exploded out of her. 3 years, Taemin. 3 years of sleepless nights, of working double shifts, of choosing between groceries and rent. 3 years of Zion asking why he doesn't have a daddy like the other kids. "Where were you?" The pain in her voice nearly brought him to his knees. "I didn't know. If I had known, you would have what? Married me? Introduced your criminal family to your black girlfriend and mixed-race babies?" She shook her head. "We both know how that would have gone." She was right, and they both knew it. 4 years ago he'd been a different man, weaker, more concerned with family approval than fighting for what mattered. Things are different now. Are they? She crossed her arms, studying him with those sharp eyes that had always seen too much. "You're still wearing a $1,000 suit. Still have that look in your eyes like you own the world. Still engaged to that pretty little Korean girl who fits perfectly into your perfect little life." He'd forgotten how well she could read him. "Hana is none of my business, just like my children are none of yours." She turned away, beginning to pack up her supplies. "Go home to your fiancé, Taemin. Forget you saw us today." "I can't do that. You did it for 4 years. Because I thought it was protecting you." The words tore out of him before he could stop them. She went very still. "What?" He'd said too much, but there was no taking it back now. "There were threats. Against you. My family's enemies thought they could use you to get to me. The only way to keep you safe was to make sure they believed you meant nothing to me." Slowly she turned around. Her face was unreadable. "So you decided to play God with my life. I was trying to save it. By breaking my heart? By making me believe I was worthless to you?" Her voice cracked. "I was pregnant, Taemin. I found out a week after you threw me away like garbage. I was carrying your children, and you just told me I was nothing." The image of her, alone and pregnant and believing he didn't love her, was torture. "Raven, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry." Her sorry doesn't give me back 4 years. Sorry doesn't erase the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering what I'd done wrong. Sorry doesn't... Her voice broke completely. He stepped toward her, instinct demanding he comfort her, but she held up a hand. "Don't, just don't!" She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I need you to leave." "I can't. Not now that I know about them. You don't have any rights here. They're my children. Biologically maybe, but you're a stranger to them, and after what you put me through, you're going to stay that way." She was wrong about that. Now that he knew they existed, nothing would keep him away from his children, but pushing her right now would only make things worse. "The social services visit tomorrow," he said quietly. "I know about it." Fear flashed across her face before she could hide it. "How do you—" "Never mind, of course you know. You probably have half the city on your payroll. Let me help." I don't need your help. Your truck is broken down. You're 3 months behind on rent and someone reported you to child services. You're about to lose everything. His voice gentled. Let me help. And what would you want in return? Time with my children. She was quiet for a long moment, conflict warring across her features. Finally she spoke. I need to think about it. Raven, I said, I need to think about it. She grabbed her purse and keys. I have to get home. The babysitter charges extra after 9. She was almost to her car when he called after her. I never stopped looking for you. She paused but didn't turn around. You should have looked harder. Then she was gone, leaving him standing alone in the empty parking lot with the weight of 4 years of mistakes crushing down on him. The next morning, Tae-min sat in his home office reviewing quarterly reports when Kyung-soo knocked on the door. The social worker just arrived at Ms. Cooper's apartment, he reported. Tae-min's pen snapped in his grip. And? It's not going well. The building manager is there too. Eviction notice. He was on his feet before Kyung-soo finished speaking. Get the car. They arrived at Raven's building to find her standing in the hallway outside her apartment, holding a crying toddler, while 2 others clung to her legs. Mrs. Sandra Phillips, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, was taking notes while the building manager gestured angrily at a stack of papers. Ms. Cooper, I understand you're facing some challenges, Mrs. Phillips was saying, but these children need stability, a safe, permanent living situation. This is safe, Raven insisted, but her voice was strained. It's just temporary financial difficulties. I can fix this. With what money? The building manager demanded. You're 3 months behind and now this. He waved the eviction notice. I got other tenants complaining about noise, about kids running around all hours. They're 3 years old, Raven snapped. They're supposed to make noise. Tae-min stepped into the hallway, and every head turned toward him. He cut an imposing figure in his tailored black suit, radiating the kind of quiet authority that made people step aside without thinking. Is there a problem here? His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Mrs. Phillips straightened, clearly recognizing power when she saw it. And you are? Tae-min Jung, Ms. Cooper's friend. The word tasted strange on his tongue. I understand there's been some confusion about her housing situation. Raven stared at him, the toddler in her arms. Liam, he realized, going quiet as he studied Tae-min with curious dark eyes that were unmistakably Jung family eyes. No confusion, the building manager said, though he seemed less aggressive now. She owes money, she's getting evicted. Simple as that. Tae-min pulled out his phone and made a call. Kyung-soo, transfer 50,000 to... He looked at the building manager. What's your name? Rodriguez. Miguel Rodriguez. Transfer 50,000 to Miguel Rodriguez's account. Now. He hung up and looked at Rodriguez. That should cover Ms. Cooper's back rent and several months in advance. I trust that resolves the eviction issue. Rodriguez's phone buzzed. He looked at it, his eyes widening. Yes, sir, absolutely. Mrs. Phillips was taking furious notes. Mr. Young, what exactly is your relationship to Ms. Cooper and these children? Before he could answer, Raven stepped forward. He's the children's father. The words hit him like a physical blow. She'd acknowledged it. Publicly. In front of the social worker, who could determine their children's fate. Mrs. Phillips looked between them, clearly recalibrating. I see. And where have you been for the past 3 years, Mr. Jung? Unaware of their existence, he said simply. But now that I know, I intend to be very involved in their lives. Daddy? The little girl, Layla, peeked out from behind Raven's legs, looking up at him with wide, curious eyes. His heart stopped. She'd called him Daddy. This beautiful little person who shared his blood had just called him Daddy, and he felt something crack open in his chest that he hadn't even known was closed. He crouched down to her level, his expensive suit forgotten. Hello, Layla. She smiled, and it was like looking at sunshine. You're really tall. You're really beautiful, he said softly. Mama says I look like her grandmama. Layla stepped closer, studying his face with the fearless curiosity of a 3-year-old. Do I look like you too? Yes, he whispered. You do. Mrs. Phillips cleared her throat. While this is touching, I still have concerns about stability. Ms. Cooper, you're clearly struggling financially. And Mr. Young, your sudden appearance raises questions about commitment and consistency. Tae-min stood, his mind racing. There was one solution, but it would require Raven to trust him. After what he'd done to her, that was asking a lot. Ms. Cooper and the children will be moving in with me, he said. Today. Raven's head snapped up. Excuse me. My estate has a guest house, fully furnished. Separate from the main house, they'll have privacy and security while we work things out. Absolutely not, Raven said immediately. Mrs. Phillips looked intrigued. That could provide the stability we're looking for. Mr. Young, I assume you can provide financial records showing your ability to support the children. Of course. And you, Miss Cooper. How do you feel about this arrangement? Raven looked trapped, her eyes darting between Mrs. Phillips and the children. Taemin could see her weighing her options. Pride versus practicality, independence versus her children's welfare. It would be temporary, she said finally. Just until I get back on my feet. Excellent. Mrs. Phillips made more notes. I'll schedule a follow-up visit in 2 weeks to see how everyone is settling in. Mr. Young, I'll need those financial records by tomorrow. You'll have them. After Mrs. Phillips and Rodriguez left, Raven leaned against her apartment door, looking exhausted. The children had wandered back inside and he could hear them playing. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Yes, I did. I can't pay you back. I don't want you to pay me back. I want you to let me take care of my children. She looked up at him, and for a moment, her guard was down. He saw the scared, overwhelmed single mother beneath the fierce exterior. This doesn't change anything between us, she said. I know. I'm still angry with you, and I know that too. And I don't trust you. You shouldn't. Not yet. He stepped closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in her brown eyes. But I'm going to earn it back, Raven, however long it takes. She stared at him for a long moment, then pushed off the door. I need to pack. Kyung-soo will send movers for the furniture. We don't have much furniture. The casual way she said it, like poverty was just a fact of life, made his chest tight. Then we'll get new furniture, whatever the children need. They don't need much, just... She paused, vulnerability flickering across her face. Just stability. They'll have it. I promise. She nodded once, then disappeared into the apartment. Through the open door he could hear her explaining to the children that they were going on an adventure, that they'd have a new place to stay for a while. Will the tall man be there? Layla asked. Yes, baby, he'll be there. Good, came Zion's voice. I like him. He has nice eyes. Taemin closed his eyes, overwhelmed by emotions he didn't have names for. 3 hours ago he'd been a man with no family except the criminal organization he'd inherited. Now he had 3 children who liked his eyes and called him daddy, and a woman who hated him, but was willing to let him try to make amends. It was more than he deserved, but he'd take it, and somehow he'd find a way to deserve it. The guest house on Taemin's Malibu estate was larger than Raven's entire apartment had been. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Pacific Ocean, and the kitchen was a chef's dream, with professional-grade appliances and granite countertops that probably cost more than she made in a year. Mama, look! Layla pressed her face against the window. The water goes on forever. It's the ocean, baby, Raven said, setting down the last of their meager belongings. Everything they owned fit in 4 suitcases and 2 garbage bags. The contrast between their possessions and the luxury surrounding them was stark. Zion was exploring the living room, running his hands along the leather furniture with the careful reverence of a child who'd been taught not to touch nice things. Liam sat cross-legged on the floor, arranging his collection of toy cars in precise rows, a ritual that helped him feel secure in new places. The bedrooms are upstairs, Taemin said from the doorway. He'd changed out of his suit into dark jeans and a black t-shirt that showed off the lean muscle beneath. It was unfair how good he looked, how her body still responded to him after everything. We can all share one room, Raven said quickly. We don't need much space. There are 3 bedrooms upstairs. The children should have their own space. They're used to sharing, and I need to be close to them. He studied her for a moment, and she had the uncomfortable feeling he could see right through her. The truth was, she couldn't afford to get comfortable here. This was temporary just until she could figure out her next move. The last thing she needed was for the children to get attached to a lifestyle they couldn't keep. The master bedroom connects to 2 smaller rooms, he said finally. You could keep the doors open. That was, actually, perfect. Okay, thank you. An awkward silence fell between them, broken only by the children's chatter as they explored their new surroundings. I should let you get settled, Taemin said. Wait, the word escaped before she could stop it. He paused, eyebrows raised. Thank you. For today. I know I don't deserve your help after... You don't deserve it? He stepped closer, his dark eyes intense. Raven, you've been raising my children alone for 3 years. You've sacrificed everything for them. If anyone doesn't deserve help, It's me. The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. This wasn't the cold, controlled man who'd shattered her heart 4 years ago. There was something different about him, something raw and real that made her chest ache. "Mama!" Layla came running over, tugging on Raven's jeans. "Can we go swimming? There's a big pool." "Maybe tomorrow, baby. We need to unpack first." "I can show them the pool," Taemin offered. "If that's okay with you." Raven hesitated. Part of her wanted to keep the children close, to maintain the protective barrier she'd built around their little family. But another part, the part that remembered how gentle he'd been with Layla in the hallway, wanted to see him with them, wanted to see if he could be the father they deserved. "Okay," she said, "but just for a few minutes." Watching Taemin with the children was like seeing a completely different person emerge. He crouched down to their level, listened seriously to their chatter, and answered their endless questions with patience she'd never seen him display before. At the pool, he rolled up his jeans and sat on the edge, letting them splash his feet while he told them about the fish that lived in the ocean. Liam, usually shy around strangers, gradually moved closer until he was sitting right next to Taemin, his small hand resting on the man's arm. "He doesn't usually warm up to people that fast," Raven said, settling beside them. "He's special," Taemin said, watching Liam arrange pool toys in a specific pattern. "They all are. Liam's autistic," she said quietly. "High-functioning, but he needs routine, predictability. Changes are hard for him." Taemin nodded, filing the information away. "What helps him? Structure, clear expectations, and he loves numbers. He can count to 100 in 3 languages." "Which languages?" "English, Spanish, and," she paused, realizing, "Korean. I taught him Korean." Taemin went very still. "You taught him Korean?" "I taught all of them basic Korean. I thought they should know something about that part of their heritage, even if—" She trailed off, not wanting to finish the sentence. "Even if their father would never be part of their lives." "Show me," he said softly. Raven called to Liam in Korean, asking him to count to 10. The little boy looked up, his serious dark eyes focusing on her, then began counting in perfect Korean pronunciation. When he finished, he looked at Taemin expectantly. "Very good," Taemin said in Korean, and Liam beamed. "You understand me?" Liam said in Korean, his words careful but clear. "Yes, I understand you," Taemin replied in the same language. "Would you like to learn more Korean words?" Liam nodded enthusiastically, and for the next 20 minutes, Taemin patiently taught him new vocabulary, while Zion and Layla played in the shallow end of the pool. Raven watched, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. This was what she'd dreamed of, back when she was pregnant and terrified, and still believing in fairy tales. She'd imagined Taemin teaching their children about their Korean heritage, being the kind of father who was present and engaged and loving. But dreams were dangerous things. She learned that the hard way. "Mama, I'm hungry," Zion announced, climbing out of the pool. "I'll make dinner," she said, grateful for the distraction. "The kitchen is fully stocked," Taemin said. "Kyung-soo made sure of that. You don't have to—" "I want to cook for them. For you." She met his eyes, seeing something vulnerable there. "Please, let me do this." How could she say no to that? Okay. In the kitchen, she fell into the familiar rhythm of cooking, the children playing nearby while Taemin watched from the breakfast bar. She made kimchi fried rice with bulgogi, comfort food that bridged both their cultures. "You still cook Korean food," he observed. "The children like it, and it reminds me." She stopped, not wanting to admit that it reminded her of him, of the nights they'd cooked together in his penthouse, her teaching him about soul food while he showed her the dishes his grandmother had made. "Reminds you of what?" "Nothing. Just better times." He was quiet for a moment. "I remember the first meal you cooked for me. Bulgogi tacos with kimchi slaw. You said it was fusion blasphemy. I was wrong, it was brilliant." His voice was soft. "You were brilliant." She kept her eyes on the pan, not trusting herself to look at him. "That was a long time ago. Not that long. Long enough." When dinner was ready, they sat around the small dining table like a real family. The children chatted about their day, asking Taemin questions about the house and the ocean, and whether there were sharks in the water. "Are you going to live here too?" Layla asked, twirling noodles around her chopsticks with the concentration of a surgeon. Taemin glanced at Raven. "I live in the big house. You're staying in the guest house. Why don't you live with us?" "Because—" He struggled for an answer that would make sense to a 3-year-old. "Because your mama and I are still figuring things out." "Oh." Layla considered this. When you figure it out, will you live with us then? Raven's heart clenched. Layla, it's not that simple. Why not? Because your father broke my heart into so many pieces, I'm still finding fragments. Because I can't trust him not to do it again. Because I'm terrified of wanting something I can't have. Because grown-up relationships are complicated, she said instead. After dinner, Taemin helped with bath time and bedtime stories, his presence both natural and surreal. He read to them in Korean, his deep voice soothing as he translated the stories into English when they asked questions. When the children were finally asleep, Raven found him standing on the deck looking out at the ocean. The moon was full, casting silver light across the water. They're incredible, he said without turning around. They are. I missed so much. The pain in his voice was raw, real. Despite everything, she felt a stab of sympathy. You didn't know. I should have known. I should have found you sooner. You made your choice 4 years ago. I made the wrong choice. He turned to face her, and in the moonlight she could see the regret etched in his features. I was a coward, Raven. I let my family's expectations matter more than fighting for you. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Regret doesn't change anything. No, but maybe this can. He stepped closer, and she caught his scent, expensive cologne and something uniquely him that made her pulse quicken. Let me prove I've changed. Let me prove I can be the man you and the children deserve. And what about Hana? His jaw tightened. What about her? You're engaged, Taemin. You're supposed to marry her in what, 3 months? That was arranged by our families. It's not. Not what? Not real? Not important? She shook her head. That poor girl thinks she's marrying the man she loves. She doesn't love me. She loves the idea of me. The status, the security, just like I was supposed to love the idea of her. But you don't. No. His eyes found hers. Dark and intense. I don't. I never have. There's only been one woman I've ever loved, and she's standing right in front of me. The words hit her like a physical blow. She'd dreamed of hearing him say he loved her, back when she was young and naive and believed love could conquer anything. Don't, she whispered. Don't what? Don't say things like that. Don't make this about love when it's really about guilt and obligation. You think that's what this is? I think you're a man who's just discovered he has children, and you're confusing responsibility with emotion. He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. You're wrong. Am I? I've thought about you every day for 4 years. I've compared every woman to you and found them lacking. I've woken up reaching for you and gone to sleep wishing I could take back every cruel word I said. His voice was rough with emotion. That's not guilt, Raven. That's love. Her breath caught. She wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly it physically hurt. But she'd believed him before and it had nearly destroyed her. I can't do this, she said, backing away. I can't let you hurt me again. I won't. You can't promise that. You couldn't promise it 4 years ago, and you can't promise it now. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warm evening air. Your family still won't accept me. Your world still won't accept us. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed. I have children now. I have something worth fighting for. You had something worth fighting for before. You just chose not to fight. The words hung between them like a blade. She saw him flinch, saw the truth of it hit home. You're right, he said quietly. I was a coward before, but I'm not anymore. Prove it. How? She met his eyes, her heart hammering against her ribs. End your engagement. Tell your family about us, about the children. Choose us over them, publicly and permanently. He was quiet for a long moment, and she could see the war playing out across his features. Family loyalty versus love. Duty versus desire. The same battle he'd fought 4 years ago. The same battle he'd lost. I need time, he said finally. Time for what? To figure out how to have both? To find a way to keep me as your dirty little secret while you marry someone else? She shook her head. I won't be hidden away again, Taemin, and I won't let my children be hidden either. That's not what I want. Then what do you want? You them, a life together. Then take it. Stop asking permission from people who don't care about your happiness and take what you want. She turned to go inside, but his voice stopped her. And if choosing you means losing everything else, my family, my position, my power. She looked back at him, this man she'd loved and lost and was terrified of loving again. Then you'll know what I felt like 4 years ago when I lost you. The next morning, Raven woke to the sound of laughter coming from downstairs. She checked the time, 7 a.m., and panic shot through her. The children were early risers, but she'd set multiple alarms to make sure she was up first. How had she slept through them? She threw on a robe and hurried downstairs to find Tae-min in the kitchen with all 3 children making pancakes. He was still in his pajamas, expensive silk pants and a white t-shirt, and there was flour in his hair. "Mama!" Layla ran over, syrup sticky on her fingers. "Tae-min made Mickey Mouse pancakes." "I see that." Raven looked at the elaborate breakfast spread, then at Tae-min. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to." He flipped a pancake with practiced ease. "I used to cook breakfast for my younger cousins when I was a teenager. I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed it." Zion was carefully cutting his pancakes into precise squares, while Liam arranged his bacon in a pattern only he understood. They looked comfortable, settled, like they belonged here. That was dangerous. "I need to get to the food truck," she said. "Figure out what needs to be repaired." Kyung-soo already handled it. "New engine, new refrigeration system, fresh paint. It'll be ready this afternoon." She stared at him. "You can't just fix everything with money." "I'm not trying to fix everything, I'm trying to help by taking over my life." The children looked between them, sensing tension. Tae-min's expression softened. "Can we discuss this later?" She wanted to argue, but not in front of the children. "Fine, but we are going to discuss it." After breakfast, Tae-min announced he had to go to work, but would be back for dinner. The children hugged him goodbye like it was the most natural thing in the world, and Raven's chest tightened watching them. They were getting attached. She could see it happening. The way Liam sought Tae-min's approval, how Zion asked when he was coming back, the way Layla had started calling him Daddy Tae-min, like it was his official title. What happened when this arrangement ended? When Tae-min decided his family's approval mattered more than their little makeshift family, the children would be devastated. She spent the day trying to establish some normalcy, taking them to the beach and letting them play in the sand while she worried. Her phone buzzed with a text from Brianna Wilson, her best friend, and the only person who knew the whole truth about Tae-min. "Girl, where are you? Your building manager said you moved out?" Raven sighed and called her. "Please tell me you didn't do something crazy," Brianna said by way of greeting. Define crazy. "Oh no, what did you do?" "I'm staying at Tae-min's house." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, did you just say you're staying at the house of the man who destroyed your life?" "It's complicated. It's stupid." "Raven, honey, I love you, but have you lost your damn mind?" "He's their father, Bree. He's also the man who told you that you meant nothing to him, the man who made you cry for 6 months straight, the man who—" "I know what he did." Raven watched Zion help Liam build a sandcastle, their dark heads bent together in concentration. "But he's different now." "Different how? Did he get a personality transplant?" "He's good with them. Patient. Kind. You should see him with Liam. He spent an hour teaching him Korean numbers yesterday." "And what about with you?" Raven was quiet for a moment. "That's complicated." "Complicated how?" "He says he loves me. Says he's always loved me." "And you believe him?" "I don't know, maybe. Sometimes when he looks at me, it's like—" She struggled for the words. "Like the past 4 years never happened. Like we're still those people who couldn't keep their hands off each other. But you're not those people. You're a mother now. And he's still a criminal with a family who hates you." "I know. Do you? Because it sounds like you're falling for him again." Was she? Raven thought about the way her pulse quickened when he walked into a room, the way her body still responded to his presence like a tuning fork struck against crystal. "I'm trying not to. Try harder. Those babies need stability, not another heartbreak." After she hung up, Raven sat on the beach watching her children play, Brianna's words echoing in her head. Her friend was right, she was falling for him again, despite every logical reason not to. But logic had never been her strong suit where Tae-min was concerned. That evening, he returned home with bags from an expensive toy store and enough takeout to feed an army. "You don't have to buy them things," Raven said, watching the children tear into packages with gleeful abandon. "I want to. I have 3 years of birthdays and Christmases to make up for." "That's not how it works." "Then how does it work? Tell me, because I'm making this up as I go along." The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. "You just be present, consistent. You show up every day, even when it's hard. I'm trying to do that. For how long? Until the novelty wears off? Until your family puts enough pressure on you to walk away?" He was quiet for a moment, watching Liam methodically arrange his new toy cars by color and size. "My grandmother wants to meet them." Raven's blood ran cold. "What?" "I told her about the children. She wants to meet her great-grandchildren." "You told her?" Panic clawed at her throat. "Tae-min, what were you thinking?" "I was thinking she deserves to know they exist." "And what did she say about me?" His silence was answer enough. "She doesn't want me there," Raven said. It wasn't a question. She needs time to adjust to the idea. The idea of what? That her precious grandson knocked up a black woman? Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't reduce yourself to that. Why not? That's how she sees me, isn't it? That's how your whole family sees me. My grandmother is old-fashioned. But she's not what? Not racist, not classist, not everything that made you choose your family over me 4 years ago. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration radiating from every line of his body. It's complicated. No, it's not. It's actually very simple. Either you choose us or you choose them. You can't have both. Why not? Because they'll never accept us. Because every family dinner will be a battle. Every holiday will be a war zone. Every milestone in our children's lives will be tainted by their disapproval. Her voice rose, and she forced herself to lower it, aware of the children playing nearby. I won't live like that again. I won't subject my children to that. Our children. My children. You haven't earned the right to call them ours. The words hit him like a physical blow. She saw him flinch, saw the pain flash across his features. "What do I have to do?" he asked quietly. "Tell me what I have to do to earn that right." Before she could answer, her phone rang. The caller ID made her stomach drop. Mrs. Sandra Phillips. "Miss Cooper, I'm calling about tomorrow's follow-up visit. I'm afraid I need to move it up. I'll be there in an hour." "An hour, but I've received some concerning information that I need to address immediately. Please make sure both you and Mr. Young are present." The line went dead. Raven stared at the phone, dread pooling in her stomach. "What is it?" Tamin asked. "Mrs. Phillips is coming now. She says she received concerning information." His expression darkened. "What kind of information?" "I don't know, but it can't be good." They spent the next hour in tense preparation, making sure the house was perfect, the children clean and happy. When Mrs. Phillips arrived, she wasn't alone. She had a police officer with her. "Miss Cooper, Mr. Young." Her expression was stern. "We need to talk." They gathered in the living room while the children played upstairs, their laughter a stark contrast to the tension below. "I received a call today," Mrs. Phillips began, "from someone claiming to have information about Mr. Young's business activities. They suggested that these children might be in danger due to his criminal associations." Raven's heart stopped. "That's ridiculous. He would never—" "Ms. Cooper, I need you to understand the seriousness of this situation. If there's any truth to these allegations, I'll have no choice but to remove the children from this environment." "There's no truth to them," Tamin said, his voice deadly calm. "Someone is trying to use the children to get to me. And who might that someone be?" Tamin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with resignation. "My family." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Raven felt the blood drain from her face. "Your family reported you?" Mrs. Phillips asked. "Not directly, but they have ways of applying pressure when they disapprove of someone's choices. And they disapprove of Ms. Cooper and the children. They disapprove of anything that threatens their control over me." Mrs. Phillips made notes, her expression grave. "Mr. Young, I need you to understand that I can't allow children to remain in a situation where they might be used as leverage in criminal disputes. They won't be, I'll make sure of that." "How?" Tamin looked at Raven, and she saw something shift in his expression. A decision being made, a line being crossed. "By walking away from the family business permanently." The officer leaned forward. "You're willing to give up your position in the organization?" "For them? Yes." Mrs. Phillips studied him for a long moment. "That's a significant decision, Mr. Young. Are you certain you can follow through?" "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Raven stared at him, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. He was choosing them, actually choosing them over everything else. "I'll need documentation," Mrs. Phillips said. "Proof that you've severed ties with any criminal organization, and I'll need it within 48 hours or I'll have to remove the children." After Mrs. Phillips and the officer left, Raven and Tamin sat in stunned silence. "You can't do this," she said finally. "I can. I will. Tamin, that's your entire life. Your family, your power, everything you've worked for. None of it matters without you and the children. But if you walk away, you'll have nothing." He turned to look at her, his dark eyes intense. "I'll have everything that matters." The sincerity in his voice, the absolute certainty, took her breath away. This was what she'd asked for him to choose them publicly and permanently. But now that he was doing it, she realized the magnitude of what she'd demanded. "What if you regret it?" "I won't." "How can you be sure?" "Because I've spent 4 years regretting the choice I made before." I won't make the same mistake twice. He reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she let him take it. His fingers were warm, familiar, and she felt some of the walls around her heart begin to crack. I love you, Raven, he said quietly. I've loved you since the moment you smiled at me over a plate of bulgogi and asked if I wanted extra kimchi. I'll love you until the day I die, and probably long after that. Tears pricked her eyes. Tae-min, I know you don't trust me yet. I know I have to prove myself, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to earn your love back. You never lost it, she whispered. His breath caught. What? You never lost my love. I tried to stop loving you, tried to hate you, but I couldn't. Even when I thought you didn't care about me, even when I was sure you'd never want our children, I couldn't stop loving you. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized were falling. Then give us another chance. Let me prove I can be the man you deserve. She looked into his eyes, seeing the boy she'd fallen in love with beneath the powerful man he'd become, seeing hope and fear and desperate love all tangled together. Okay, she whispered, okay, I'll give us another chance. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. It tasted like coming home. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of lawyers, documents, and tense phone calls. Tae-min moved with the focused determination of a man who'd finally found his purpose, systematically dismantling the life he'd built to create space for the life he wanted. Raven watched him work, still hardly believing he was actually doing it. He met with federal prosecutors, offering information in exchange for immunity. He transferred his legitimate business holdings into a trust for the children. He formally resigned from every position he held in the Jung family organization. And when elderly Myung-ho arrived at the estate with 2 cars full of enforcers, Tae-min met them at the gate alone. Raven watched from the guest house window, her heart in her throat, as the 2 men faced off. She couldn't hear what was being said, but she could see the tension in every line of Tae-min's body, the cold fury in his grandfather's posture. The confrontation lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, Elder Lee and his men left without looking back, and Tae-min stood alone at the gate for a long time before walking back to the house. What did he say? Raven asked when he came inside. That I'm dead to them. That if I ever try to contact the family again, there will be consequences. Are you okay? He was quiet for a moment, staring out at the ocean. I thought it would hurt more, he said finally, losing them, but all feel is relief. She moved closer, studying his profile. Relief? I've been living their life for so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like to make my own choices. He turned to look at her, and she saw peace in his eyes she'd never seen before. For the first time in my life, I'm free. Free to do what? Free to love you the way you deserve to be loved. Free to be the father our children need. Free to build something real instead of just inheriting something hollow. That evening, Mrs. Phillips returned with the documentation she'd requested. She reviewed everything carefully. The resignation letters, the immunity agreements, the trust documents that secured the children's financial future. This is quite comprehensive, Mr. Young, she said finally. You've essentially severed all ties with your former life. Yes. And you're comfortable with that decision? More than comfortable. It's the best decision I've ever made. Mrs. Phillips closed her file and smiled, the first genuine smile Raven had seen from her. In that case, I see no reason to continue monitoring this situation. You've created a stable, loving environment for these children. I'll be closing the case. After she left, Raven found Tae-min on the deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. The children were inside, building a fort out of couch cushions and arguing over architectural decisions with the seriousness of actual architects. No regrets? She asked, settling beside him. None. He pulled her closer, and she let herself melt into his warmth. Well, maybe one. What's that? I regret that it took me so long to find the courage to do this. I regret the time we lost, the years I wasn't here to see them grow. You're here now. That's what matters. Is it enough? Am I enough? She turned in his arms, looking up at him. You gave up everything for us. Your family, your power, your entire identity. How could that not be enough? Because I should have done it 4 years ago. I should have fought for you then. Maybe you weren't ready then. Maybe we both needed to grow up first. And now? Now I think we might actually have a chance. He kissed her forehead, soft and reverent. I want to marry you. Her breath caught. Tae-min, not right away. I know we need time to rebuild trust, to figure out how to be a family. But someday, when you're ready, I want to marry you. I want to make this official. What about Hana? I ended the engagement yesterday. She was... Relieved, actually. Turns out she's been in love with someone else for months but didn't know how to tell her family. Really? Really? She thanked me for giving her the courage to follow her heart. Raven laughed, the sound bright and free. So we're both rebels now. The best kind. They were interrupted by Layla calling from inside. Mama, Daddy Tamin, come see our fort. Daddy Tamin. The title still made his chest tight with emotion every time he heard it. We should go in, Raven said. In a minute. He caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. I love you, Raven Cooper. I love our children. I love the life we're building together. I love you too, she said, and meant it with every fibre of her being. Inside, they found the children had constructed an elaborate blanket fort that took up most of the living room. Zion was the self-appointed architect, directing his siblings with the authority of someone who'd clearly given this serious thought. It's a castle, Layla announced, crawling out of the entrance. And we're the royal family. What makes us royal? Tamin asked, crouching down to her level. Because we live in a palace, she said, gesturing around the guest house. And because you're a prince and Mama's a princess. What does that make you three? The most important people in the whole kingdom, Zion said with the confidence of a 3-year-old who'd never doubted his own significance. Liam emerged from the fort, his dark hair sticking up at odd angles. Can we have dinner in the castle? Absolutely, Raven said. What do royal families eat for dinner? Pancakes? All 3 children shouted in unison. Pancakes it is, Tamin said, already heading for the kitchen. As they prepared dinner together, Raven making pancakes while Tamin cut fruit and the children set the table with plastic plates and cups, she felt something settle in her chest that she hadn't felt in years. Peace, contentment, the bone-deep satisfaction of being exactly where she belonged. Mama, Layla said, tugging on her pajama pants, are you and Daddy Tamin going to get married? The question caught her off guard. Why do you ask that, baby? Because married people live together and take care of each other and love each other. And you do all those things. Out of the mouths of babes. Raven glanced at Tamin, who was watching the conversation with barely concealed hope. Maybe someday, she said carefully. Good, Layla said with satisfaction, because I want him to be my real daddy forever. He is your real daddy, Raven said softly. He always has been. Even when he wasn't here? Even then. Later, after the children were asleep and they'd cleaned up the remains of their blanket fort dinner, Raven and Tamin sat on the couch together, her head on his shoulder, his arms around her. This feels like a dream, she murmured. A good dream or a bad dream? The best dream. The kind you never want to wake up from. Then don't wake up. Stay here with me. For how long? Forever, if you'll have me. She tilted her head to look at him. What about your businesses? Your money? How are we going to live? I've got enough legitimate investments to keep us comfortable, and I'm thinking about opening a restaurant. A restaurant? Korean fusion, like the food you used to make for me. We could run it together, you as head chef, me handling the business side. The idea sent excitement shooting through her. You'd want to do that? I'd want to do anything that means spending every day with you. Even if it means starting over from scratch? Especially if it means starting over from scratch. With you, with our children, building something that's entirely ours. She kissed him then, pouring 4 years of longing and love and hope into the connection between them. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I want that, she whispered against his lips. I want all of it. The restaurant, the life, the forever, all of it. Even marriage eventually? Especially marriage. Eventually. He smiled, the expression transforming his entire face. I can't wait to spend the rest of my life making you happy. You already make me happy. You and those 3 little people upstairs who think we're royalty. We are royalty. We're the royal family of our own little kingdom. And what kind of kingdom is it? The kind where love matters more than power, where family comes first, where second chances are possible and dreams come true. I like the sound of that kingdom. Good, he said, pulling her closer, because you're going to be its queen. Outside, the ocean waves crashed against the shore in an endless rhythm, and inside their little castle, a family that had been broken was finally whole again. 1 year later, Seoul Kitchen Fusion was packed for the lunch rush, every table full and a line out the door. Raven moved through the kitchen like a dancer, orchestrating the controlled chaos of a successful restaurant with the same grace she brought to everything else. Order up, she called, sliding plates across the pass. Table 6, bulgogi tacos with extra kimchi slaw. Tamin appeared at her elbow, stealing a quick kiss before grabbing the plates. Table 6 is asking if the chef will come out to meet them. Apparently, they're food bloggers. Tell them I'm too busy to be charming. That's your job. I prefer being charming to you. Later, she said, but she was smiling. We've got 3 more hours of service. The restaurant had been open for 6 months, and they were already being featured in food magazines and travel guides. The fusion concept that had once been just for them had found an audience hungry for something new and authentic. Mama, Layla's voice carried from the small office behind the kitchen where the children did homework after school. Liam won't share the crayons. Use your words, baby, Raven called back. Tell him how you feel. I feel like he's being a crayon hog. Tae-min laughed, disappearing into the office to mediate the crayon crisis. Through the pass-through window, Raven could see him crouching down between Liam and Layla, listening seriously to both sides of the argument before producing a second box of crayons from his desk drawer. Crisis averted, he returned to the kitchen. Zion wants to know if he can help serve tables. He's 4. He's very responsible for 4. The answer is still no. What if I supervise? The answer is still no, but I love that you asked. The afternoon flew by in a blur of orders and laughter, and the comfortable rhythm they'd developed. When the last customer left and they'd finished cleaning, Raven found Tae-min on the restaurant's small patio, watching the children play in the courtyard they'd created behind the building. Good day, she said, settling beside him. The best. Did you see the review that came in this morning? The one that called us a revelation in fusion cuisine. That's the one. He pulled her closer. We're booked solid for the next 2 months. I can't believe this is our life now. Better than you imagined. So much better. She watched Liam carefully arranging fallen leaves in a pattern while his siblings built a fort out of outdoor cushions. They're happy. They are. And so are you. How can you tell? You hum when you cook now. You didn't used to do that. She hadn't realized, but he was right. Somewhere along the way, joy had crept back into her daily routine. What about you? Any regrets about giving up the life of crime for the life of a restaurateur? Only one. Her heart skipped. What's that? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I regret waiting so long to ask you this question. Raven's breath caught as he slid off the bench and dropped to one knee. The children, sensing something important was happening, stopped playing and gathered around. Raven Cooper, he said, opening the box to reveal a stunning ring, not the massive diamond she might have expected, but a perfect sapphire surrounded by smaller diamonds that caught the afternoon light like stars. You've given me everything I never knew I wanted. A family, a purpose, a reason to be better than I ever thought I could be. Will you marry me? Say yes, Mama. Layla bounced on her toes. Say yes, so we can have a wedding. Can I wear a tux? Zion asked seriously. Liam just smiled, his quiet approval somehow meaning as much as his siblings' enthusiasm. Raven looked at the man kneeling in front of her, this powerful, dangerous man who'd given up everything to build sandcastles with their children and learn to make pancakes in the shape of dinosaurs. This man who'd chosen love over loyalty, family over power, hope over fear. Yes, she said, and the word came out like a song. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like everything else about their improbable love story. Group hug, Layla declared, and suddenly they were all tangled together in a pile of arms and laughter and tears of joy. When's the wedding? Zion wanted to know. Soon, Tae-min said, looking at Raven. Very soon. Can we have cake? Layla asked. The biggest cake you've ever seen, Raven promised. Can we invite everyone from the restaurant? Liam asked. Everyone, Tae-min agreed. As the sun set over their little courtyard, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Raven looked around at her family, her beautiful, chaotic, perfect family, and felt her heart overflow with gratitude. 4 years ago, she'd thought her story with Tae-min was over. She'd been wrong. It was just beginning. And this time, they were writing it together.